Welcome to part 2 of the Toyota Hiace commuter van build conversion video. If you haven't seen part 1, please check it out. It should be on my channel somewhere, or maybe I'll put a little pop-up here for you. Go check it out and then come back to part 2. Awesome stuff. So on today's video, we are going to be focusing on the installation of the flooring and also the installation of the reverse camera, which is currently what I'm working on here. So to put the reverse camera in, obviously you need the camera at the back of the vehicle. To get the camera at the back of the vehicle with the wires, you need to remove the paneling. So this is what I was working on here. There was just a heap of clips that needed to be popped out, plastic clips, fairly easy to do, just takes a little bit of time. There was also a few screws I believe I had to use the impact driver for. Once we took the panel off, I used a drill and a drill bit to drill a hole into the back of the van to feed the wire through for the reverse camera. So here is the reverse camera sat on the transparent plastic, and you can see the wires hanging off it. I need a hole big enough to put the wire through, so then I can feed that wire to the front and we can get the reverse camera working. So for the hole, we just drill a hole with your drill bit, and then we want to put a rubber grommet inside the hole. Before we put the rubber grommet in though, we want to use some sort of anti-rust, rust prevention spray. I use something called Rust-Oleum. It just stops the area getting rusty after you've drilled a hole in it and expose the bare metal. So we put the wire through, we get the reverse camera in place. There we go, we're kind of feeding the wire through. This is kind of a two-person job. Very difficult, to be honest with you. During the van build, I found that a lot of things aren't necessarily that difficult, but they're just kind of irritating. There's just a lot of jobs that are like, you don't need to have a lot of skills to do it, but you need a lot of patience, and patience isn't one of my strong suits. So it was nice to have help whenever I could from Jen. We managed to get the reverse camera in place. We put the screws back in and the reverse camera was sitting nicely, and then we fed it through to the camera here. This is the reverse camera, touchscreen, front camera, reverse camera, all the cameras we could want. It was bloody awesome. It still is. 6 months plus later, it still works great. But the wires, obviously when you have a camera and a wire running from the front to the back of the vehicle, you need to try and hide the wires if you have any sort of decency about you. So we did a job, or at least Jen did a really great job of, they call it spludging the wires from the front to the back. And that's basically just hiding them. You hide them behind the panels of the vehicle. And if you saw in part 1, we removed the seats, but we still had some of these little nuts and bolts left. There's a little video of Jen removing some of the remaining nuts and bolts. And then we went straight to work on the flooring. So the flooring was like a vinyl sort of all-in-one floor. And to be honest with you, if I could do this van build again, I probably would use something of a similar material again, something I could just glue to the floor and put in place. The amount of effort and work that was required to rip this floor up, I can't even begin to describe to you. Like, we just used a safety blade to actually remove the flooring. But underneath the flooring there was heaps of glue, which required hours and hours and hours of sanding. And then when we finally ripped up most of the floor to where we wanted the kind of the laminate flooring panels to go, which you'll see, I then had to remove these long metal struts that were in the van. I'm not entirely sure what they were for. I think it's something to do with the wheelchairs. But let me tell you, they were an absolute pain to remove from the floor. They had like these long bolts going through the bottom of the van. And I essentially spent days attempting to drill all of them out. I burnt out all of my drill bits. This was the moment of absolute joy where I'd done the final drill bit on one of them and we managed to pull one of the panels out. Excited is not the word. It was a miracle. Let me be real with you. It took days. And this is all of the glue that we had to lift up. In that previous part there, I was sweeping some of the glue out. When we finally had the floor prepped, it was a case of, same as in the previous video, patching the holes in the floor. I used I believe the same Sikaflex as I did in the previous video. We want to patch the holes in the floor just so no moisture can come into the van and cause havoc. And in addition to that as well, I'm in Australia. I don't want like cockroaches or spiders or bugs. I don't want anything coming up through the floor when I'm trying to sleep in my van. So it was a case of patching every single hole I could see. And these are the materials that I use for the flooring. So we used heaps of liquid nails, which is like a pretty strong glue. We used a mallet, we used a level, we used a gun for the liquid nails, and we used, I think that was Rust-Oleum, which was actually for the previous job. But before I could get into the laminate flooring, and by the way, in Australia we have a big kind of shop called Bunnings. That's where I brought the flooring from. If you guys have any questions, anything, you know, what materials did I use, how much did it cost me, where did I get it from, please leave a comment below and I will be more than happy to help you and provide the best information I can with that. The flooring we got from Bunnings, it's a laminate flooring that kind of slots into each other, a bit of like a tongue and groove sort of board. I did make a big error with the flooring, my first big error in the van build, which you will see. If you've ever done flooring before, you'll notice straight away. If you haven't, you might not. Anybody in the comments, please feel free to point out the huge error of my ways when I was laying this flooring. But if you're not sure what the error of my ways is, then maybe I'll just keep it quiet. So I had to cut the flooring before I could put it in place. So what I did is I got my laminate flooring after I'd cut it and cut it to the right size so it would kind of lay up nicely. I put heaps of glue on the bottom of them, patted them into place, measured out, as you can see I did my best, and continued to lay the flooring. I did actually do this with a second layer, so I kind of put the first row of flooring in, and then I waited a couple days until it had dried, and then I did the next kind of row of flooring in, and I don't actually have footage of that, which surprises me because I recorded heaps, but it did work out quite well in the end, as you'll see in part 3, part 4, and so on and so forth. But you can see that the van is slowly starting to take some sort of shape here. We've managed to remove all of the seats. We've managed to remove the wheelchair lift. We've installed the reverse and front camera. And we're now in the process of putting quite a beautiful laminate flooring in. Any of you flooring experts, feel free to absolutely call me out right now on this. But yeah, you will be glad to know, again, like 6, 7, 8 months later, the flooring is still in place. The flooring is still great. So yeah, it wasn't actually too bad. Anyway, please subscribe if you haven't. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Any comments, let me know below. And thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.